I stood frozen in the middle of the cornfield, staring in disbelief at the vast 20-hectare stretch of land that had once been covered in lush green. Now, it looked like a battlefield left in ruins. Broken stalks lay scattered everywhere. The soil had been deeply churned up, and young ears of corn had been trampled into the mud. 20 hectares of crops. This was more than just a number on paper. It represented thousands of hours of labor under the scorching Texas sun, countless drops of sweat, tears, and the livelihood that had supported my family throughout the past year. Yet in just a few short nights, a ferocious herd of wild hogs had wiped it all away. A crushing sense of grief surged through my chest before erupting into unshakable anger. I clenched my fists and stared toward the dark tree line along the edge of the property. We Texas farmers had endured this destruction for far too long. There would be no more retreat and no more mercy. Today, we would launch a full-scale operation to hunt down these ruthless beasts. To tighten the net around the threatened 20 hectares of farmland, I couldn't afford to sit back and wait. I began the operation by driving along the forest trails, spreading miles of sweet corn bait to lure the wild hogs toward carefully selected trap locations. Soon afterward, under the blazing afternoon sun, my team and I hurried to install heavy-duty trapping pens in the open woodland. The pounding of hammers echoed through the trees as thick steel panels were firmly secured. When darkness fell, so did the nightmare. Just as expected, the scent of sweet corn drew the aggressive herd in. Through the infrared camera, I held my breath as dozens of massive dark figures poured into the trap. Clang! The loud mechanical snap shattered the silence of the night as the trap gate slammed shut, locking the entire herd inside. At the northern boundary, another trap slammed shut in the middle of the night. Near the dry creek, another trap closed after dark, cutting off the hog's escape route. Along the dense forest edge, another nighttime trap successfully captured another destructive group of wild hogs. At first light the following morning, while thick fog still covered the plowed fields, I started my pickup truck and began the long day's harvest under tremendous pressure. As I approached the first trap for inspection, the wild hogs inside immediately became violently agitated. They let out chilling squeals and repeatedly slammed their heads against the steel bars, shaking the entire cage. The lead boar glared at me with bloodshot eyes, looking ready to tear apart anyone who came too close. Although my heart was racing, I stayed completely calm as I carefully connected the transfer chute from the trap to the transport cage. After nearly 20 minutes of patience and determined guidance with a sorting pole, I successfully loaded the entire group onto the truck. Moving to the next trap site, I inspected the pen the following morning. The situation once again tested my patience. I quickly connected the loading chute and successfully transferred the captured wild hogs onto the truck. I continued checking traps and collecting captures at the dry creek early that morning, finishing the work quickly before heading to the next hotspot. At another large trap site, I was stunned to discover an enormous herd packed tightly inside the enclosure wall. Sweat poured down my face beneath the increasingly intense sun as my team and I worked tirelessly to load the animals onto the truck. We finally breathed a sigh of relief when the last wild hog stepped inside. As the truck slowly made its way toward the final trap hidden deep in the canyon for one last nighttime inspection, darkness had once again completely taken over. The truck's headlights swept across the brush, revealing a massive boar with a humped back and long razor-sharp tusks. Unlike the others, it showed no fear and made no attempt to flee. Instead, it planted its feet firmly into the ground, staring directly into my flashlight, ready to charge anything standing in its way. I carefully connected the loading chute leading directly into the truck, but this boar refused to give in. Every time I tried to guide it forward with the pole, it spun around, let out furious squeals, and slammed its tusks against the steel panels, producing terrifying metallic screeches. The psychological battle lasted nearly 40 minutes. Both the boar and I were completely exhausted. With unwavering patience, I gradually limited its movement until, after one final frustrated roar, it finally stepped onto the truck. The steel gate slammed shut behind it with a loud clang as the lock snapped securely into place. The heavily loaded truck roared to life and bounced along the red dirt road as it left the scene. Standing alone in the cool night breeze, I looked up at the endless Texas sky and finally released the long breath I had been holding since morning. Dawn had just broken over the fields of East Texas as we joined Logan to begin inspecting the trap system set up around the ranch. In recent weeks, many pastures have been rooted up, fences showed fresh signs of impact, and several planted areas have been damaged overnight. At first, we assumed that only a few wild hogs had passed through. However, what awaited us throughout today's journey proved that the situation was far more serious. The more sites we checked, the more we realized that the scale of wild hog activity exceeded all expectations. The first trap had been set the previous evening right at the edge of the woods, where rows of oaks met the ranch's open grasslands. As soon as we stopped the vehicle, we could see that the trapdoor was still securely shut. As we approached, the whole group was astonished to find a large number of wild hogs inside. They moved constantly, their noises echoing through the quiet forest. The dense tracks in the damp soil showed that the entire sounder had passed through the area during the night. Logan quickly recorded the number of animals, checked the condition of the trap, and completed the ranch's wildlife management procedures before moving on to the next location. Only about 100 meters away stood the second trap. The short distance made us doubt that we would find much more, but the results were quite the opposite. This trap also held an unusually large number of wild hogs. Looking at the fresh signs on the ground, Logan remarked thoughtfully that the forest's peaceful appearance by day was entirely different from what took place after dark. The trap system revealed that this area served as a regular travel corridor for several groups of hogs. That meant the risk of damage to pastures, crops, and ranch infrastructure remained high unless close monitoring continued. Our next stop was near the equipment shed, where tractors and farming machinery were stored. The surrounding open ground had once led Logan to believe this would not be an ideal location. Yet the results changed all of our minds. Fresh tracks, stretching from the land behind the shed to the trap, indicated that wild hogs frequently passed through in search of food and water. Their presence so close to the ranch's work area further underscored the need to maintain management measures that reduce the risk of encounters between people and wildlife. In the afternoon, we continued to a trap set in a lush green pasture not far from the ranch. The soil there retained moisture after rains, attracting many animals to feed. Reviewing footage from the trail camera, Logan saw that a group of wild hogs had entered the area the previous night without significantly altering the route. The signs on the ground suggested that this had been a favored location for a long time. After carefully recording the information, the team updated the hog activity map to support management plans for the coming weeks. The fifth trap lay deep in the woods along a naturally formed game trail. This site produced the most striking results of the day. Layers of overlapping tracks covered the path, showing that multiple groups had used the route over several consecutive nights. Logan spent considerable time surveying the surroundings to understand why the area attracted so many hogs. The information gathered would help the ranch refine its monitoring locations and improve the effectiveness of its wildlife management efforts in future seasons. The danger posed by wild boars in Texas lies not only in their immense strength or the size of their sounders, but also in the unpredictable way they search for food. At certain times, they stop traveling in large, consistent groups and instead split into smaller bands, constantly changing their routes and appearing in places where no one expects them. This creates an enormous challenge for farmers. How do you control and eliminate a destructive animal that never stops playing hide and seek? Nick and his team in Texas have proven that no matter how unpredictable these wild boars become, patience, vigilance, and a well-executed trapping system remain the key to outsmarting them. Recognizing the shift in the boar's behavior, Nick immediately adjusted his strategy. During the day, he installed a new heavy-duty steel trap along the forest boundary. At another section of the ranch, he carefully inspected the trap door to ensure the locking mechanism would not jam, while also mixing a highly aromatic bait by hand to lure the wild boars into the trap. As night fell, The operation began at the main trap site. Drawn by the scent of the bait, the wild boars slowly emerged from the edge of the forest and cautiously moved deeper into the enclosure. Then, slam, the trap gate crashed shut with tremendous force. The loud clang of steel echoed through the night, sending the trapped animals into a frenzy. Yet the scattered movement of the boars became even more apparent at the second trap. Although the gate closed perfectly, it captured only a single animal. Early the next morning, Nick began his inspection round, checking every trap across the property. At the largest trapping site, he quickly connected a steel transfer tunnel directly to the trap entrance. Using calm, practiced movements, he guided the captured boars toward the transport trailer. Despite their resistance, the animals gradually moved forward, and Nick successfully loaded every one of them. He then moved on to the trap that had caught only a lone boar overnight. After connecting the pickup truck's holding compartment to the trap, he efficiently transferred the animal into the vehicle. The journey continued through several secondary trap locations where scattered remnants of the wild boar population had been detected. At a cage trap near the forest edge, the trapped boars had become highly agitated. To ensure complete safety, Nick humanely dispatched every animal before quickly removing them from the enclosure. At the next trap, only a single wild boar had been captured once again. Nick promptly dispatched the animal to clear the trap for future use. When he returned the following morning to inspect the trap baited the previous day, the result was disappointing. Only one boar had entered the enclosure. Even though the catch fell short of expectations, Nick followed the same procedure, humanely dispatching the animal before removing it from the trap. The final stop was the trap located at the farthest corner of the field. The lone boar inside calmly moved into the holding cage, allowing Nick to load it onto the truck successfully and eliminate the last remaining sign of the wild animal from the ranch. As the Texas sun climbed higher into the sky, the truck bed was once again filled with the results of a long day's work. Despite facing wild boars that appeared unpredictably, moved in scattered groups, and constantly changed their behavior, Texas farmers once again demonstrated remarkable patience and professionalism. By refusing to overlook a single trap, whether held an entire sounder or just one solitary boar, Nick ensured the continued protection of both the ranch and its crops. The battle against Texas wild boars is far from over, and new surprises undoubtedly lie ahead. But with careful planning, unwavering discipline, and adaptable tactics, these farmers remain ready to counter every new wave of invasion from the untamed wild.